Welcome to our session on 10 cool
string bends for electric guitar or acoustic.
If you get strong fingers. I'm going to split it up into 2 sessions. We're going to do 5 bends in the first one and 5 in the second, and I'm
going to call this session I Ain't Broke, But I'm Badly Bent.
Now, I've mentioned in the past that some of the fingerings on the guitar for certain voicings can be tricky, but I didn't mean to imply the guitar is substandard to keys in any way. Every instrument has its place in music, and our beloved guitar has a primal position as far as I'm concerned. Now, one thing piano players can't do,
unless they're playing an electronic keyboard with a pitch wheel,
is bend notes like we can. So we got it all over piano in that regard. And there's something really satisfying and visceral about being able to grab that string under your fingers and just bend it and shape it wherever you want. Even fitting in notes that aren't quite in any particular scale. Some of the basics of string bending are getting a good grip on the string. Use your stronger fingers, your third, second, or first finger. Let me just demonstrate here. Let's take, for example, down in the key of A minor pentatonic. So we're on the 5th position, and we're going to go to the 7th fret, and we're going to do a typical rock bend. And I'm going to bend this D note up to the E note. So you want to help your finger out with a couple other fingers, 1 or 2 underneath it when possible, especially if you're trying to bend with the 4th finger. And you can bend that with your 3rd finger. Let's go to our number 1 lick. Everybody who has picked up a guitar probably knows. And let me stay in F for a moment here. We're going to do the F minor pentatonic scale. And one of the most common bends you'll hear is the 4th to the 5th note. And sometimes you'll play the 5th note fretted afterward. Another common bend is the flatted 7th note to the tonic. And then you'll hear a minor 3rd to the 4th. Let's take a look at more nuanced bends. I'll call them microtonal. And in this case here, we're bending the notes in between the frets, so to speak. And you could call it microtonal because the microtones come from the harmonic series of notes that are found in nature and in other scales from other countries. And they don't quite fit in the Western scale. And that's why blues players love to use them, and country players, and you'll find it in Celtic folk music and Indian scales and more exotic scales use these tones between the frets. So let's go down to A pentatonic on the 5th fret. Now here's a bend that sort of floats around between the frets. Here's another one, a little microtonal bend. It's not quite up to the major third. It's between the minor third and the major third. Here's another one that almost goes up to the tonic, but not quite. Here's one that, off of the D note here, it almost goes up to an E or toward an E flat. It's not really quite to the E flat even. Now you can do those in other places as well. You can go to the 6th degree of that scale, which is F sharp, and so I'm not quite bending all the way up to the G. Let's go on to a third type of bend, and basically this is what you try to do is other than fitting those microtonal bends in between the frets, you want to try to hit the note as accurately as you can. So that's a whole step bend. Here's a half step bend. There's a whole step bend. Whole step bend. Half step bend. And those bends can be used when you're playing any kind of a melody and you're replacing the fretted note with a bent note. Another type of common bend you'll hear is to start with the bent note. So you can start with the bent note and come down off of it. You go back up into it again, as I was doing there. Give it vibrato if you want, to help sustain it or give it a little character. So here I'm coming off of the fretted E to another bent E. Let's wrap up with a common bend. I'm calling it the Hendrix string bend. You'll hear a lot of people do it, and it's on 2 adjacent strings. I'm going to go back to F. Up here in 8th position. So what Hendrix would do, and a lot of guitarists do, is you bend the note on one string and then you end up on the adjacent string in a bent position. So in this case I'm catching both these strings with my 1st and 3rd fingers, and when I bend the 1st string up, I'm actually bending the 2nd string as well. So when I pick the 2nd string, it's already bent. And I've got the 1st finger kind of as a stabilizer underneath to help bend up the 2nd string. And then you can embellish that on and on and on. Okay, so I mentioned that the dominant kind of vamp that we opened with, that little funk thing, you could either do a major or a minor on it, and so I'm just going to quickly show you that a lot of these bend patterns and licks can be moved up or down a minor third, and so it's 2 for 1. You can do it in a major tonality or a minor, and you can adjust those slightly with some notes in each position that may be a little different. Now, let me give you an example here. In this F thing, I'm going to do a lick in sort of an F major sound. And you can even add a little Clapton-esque thing to it. You can bend up. Now if you move that up 3 frets, now you're in an F minor sound. Back down to the major. And that'll work in the box that a lot of you know. There's your major, F pentatonic major. Move it up 3 frets or a minor third.
So I briefly mentioned a microtonal kind of system of notes. Comes from a natural series of harmonics.
And it's part of what's called just intonation, as opposed to our fixed tempered scale of 12 notes that we use in Western music. And I'm going to leave a link below for you to check out. Great article on that. It'll help you understand it. It's very interesting. How you incorporate it or not into your own music is another story, but it sure is cool to read about it. I'll see you next time. We'll do 5 more string bends, so have some fun. See you next time.